You know, it is genuinely wild to observe how we behave in the skincare aisle.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we will stand there for 20 minutes just squinting at the back of a tiny, really expensive serum bottle, demanding absolute purity.
Right, checking every single ingredient.
Yeah, we scrutinize the ingredient list for parabens, we analyze the molecular weight of the hyaluronic acid, and we insist on knowing exactly what is going on our faces down to the literal microgram.
It's true.
I mean, we treat our facial routines like a high-stakes chemistry experiment.
Well, we have been trained to demand total transparency for our faces. You know, consumers have never been more educated about the skin barrier, active ingredients, and uh, potential irritants when it comes to the jawline upwards.
Exactly, the jawline upwards. But then, when it comes to the most delicate, highly absorptive, and sensitive skin on our entire bodies, that critical thinking often just totally vanishes.
It completely goes out the window.
We just grab whatever brightly colored, neon-wrapped package of sanitary pads happens to be on sale at the pharmacy, and we rarely give it a second thought.
Yeah, we just trust the packaging.
Right, so today we are taking a deep dive into a health mystery that is quite literally hidden in plain sight.
And it is a fascinating one.
We are investigating the everyday, highly normalized use of bleached and scented sanitary pads and how they interact with your body's most sensitive tissues.
Just something so many people just never think about.
Exactly. And to do this, we are pulling from a really robust stack of materials, including medical guidelines from the British Association for Sexual Health and HIV, or BASH-H, alongside comprehensive dermatological research and clinical educational resources.
It's a lot of solid peer-reviewed data.
Our goal today is to uncover the hidden chemistry behind conventional pads, decode the critical difference between simple physical irritation and a full-blown allergy, and give you practical, science-backed solutions to protect your health without, feeling completely overwhelmed.
Because it can feel overwhelming at first. The sheer volume of undisclosed synthetic ingredients sitting against your skin for days at a time is, honestly, it's startling once you look at the data.
It really is.
But understanding the mechanics of how those materials interact with your biology gives you a tremendous amount of power to change your daily comfort.
Okay, so let's get into it. I am looking at the component breakdown from the research. And the ingredient list of a standard disposable sanitary pad reads less like a personal hygiene product and much more like an industrial manufacturing catalog.
Yeah, that's a very accurate way to describe it.
The most prevalent material jumping out from the data is plastic. The average disposable pad contains about 2.4 grams of plastic, primarily polyethylene.
Right, and manufacturers rely heavily on polyethylene in the backing of the pad.
Uh-huh.
And it's frequently woven into the top sheet, too, because, well, it's incredibly cheap to produce and acts as a rigid, impermeable barrier to prevent leaks.
Okay, let's unpack this, because on a purely mechanical level, preventing leaks sounds perfectly rational.
Sure, it's what you want a pad to do.
Right. But when you apply that to human biology, wearing a standard pad is essentially wearing a chemically treated, perfumed plastic bag directly against your skin for a week.
The physical reality of the product design absolutely aligns with that description. I mean, polyethylene does not breathe.
No airflow at all.
None. And that plastic foundation is really just the beginning of the chemical load.
What else is in there?
Well, to achieve that pristine, immaculate white appearance that consumers associate with hygiene, the raw materials used in the absorbent core are often bleached with chlorine.
And the sources emphasize that this bleaching process offers absolutely zero functional benefit, right?
None whatsoever.
It doesn't make the pad absorb more blood, and it doesn't make the product sterile. It is purely an aesthetic choice.
Exactly. It is an aesthetic choice, but with a documented biological cost. Chlorine bleaching processes can actually leave behind trace amounts of dioxins.
And dioxins they're pretty bad, right?
Yeah, they are highly toxic, carcinogenic chemical compounds. What makes them particularly relevant to human health is that they are bioaccumulative.
Meaning they build up.
Yes, meaning your body cannot easily break them down or excrete them, so they just store themselves in your fat cells, building up over decades.
Oh, wow.
So subjecting the highly vascularized, highly absorptive tissue of the vulva to regular monthly exposure of even trace amounts of bioaccumulative toxins, it's something the dermatological community is increasingly questioning.
I can see why. And then we have the smell.
Oh, the fragrances.
Yeah, sources use this phrase olfactory marketing, which just seems like a very polite corporate way of saying they pump these pads full of synthetic fragrances to create an illusion of cleanliness.
That's exactly what it is. And the problem is, fragrance formulas are legally protected as trade secrets in many regions.
So it's like a black box recipe.
Completely. You have no idea what chemical soup is actually creating that spring breeze scent. A single synthetic fragrance can be composed of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of distinct, undisclosed chemical compounds.
And you are putting that right on your skin.
Right, you're introducing a massive variable of potential allergens directly to the mucosa.
That's terrifying.
And the hidden chemistry extends to the functional parts of the pad, too, like the adhesive glues that keep the pad anchored to your underwear.
Yeah.
They frequently contain a substance called colophony. Colophony is a sticky resin derived from pine trees, and it is incredibly notorious in dermatology as a severe contact allergen.
Wow. Pine resin in pads.
Yeah, and manufacturers also use various irritating solvents to keep that glue workable, and some brands even incorporate latex into the flexible wings.
See, the functional parts I sort of understand, like they need the pad to stick,
Sure.
but I have to bring up the dyes because this specific detail in the research just stopped me in my tracks.
The blue dyes.
Yes. Manufacturers will actually inject synthetic blue or purple dyes into the center of the pad. Wait, manufacturers add synthetic blue dye just to make it look medical and safe? Isn't that totally counterproductive if synthetic dye is a known skin irritant?
It is entirely counterproductive. What's fascinating here is that consumer psychology completely overrides biological logic in the product engineering phase.
That is wild.
Yeah, that blue dye has no absorptive properties. It doesn't sanitize the fluid. Market research simply shows that consumers subconsciously associate that specific blue hue with clinical efficacy, safety, and hygiene.
Just a total illusion.
Exactly. The bleach, the perfumes, the dyes. These additions are largely driven by marketability and cost-cutting, not by what is biologically optimal for human skin.
I am trying to picture how these super thin modern pads actually hold fluid, though, because they are a fraction of the thickness they were 20 years ago.
Right. They've changed a lot.
The research points to superabsorbent polymers, or SAPs. What exactly are those doing inside the core?
So SAPs are petroleum-derived polymer gels. On a molecular level, they look like tightly coiled chains.
Okay.
When they come into contact with fluid, those chains uncoil and draw water molecules into their structure, trapping the liquid. They're astonishingly efficient at this. They can actually hold up to 11 times their own weight in liquid.
They sound like microscopic chemical sponges that just don't have an off switch.
That's a perfect way to describe them.
But do they only absorb the menstrual blood?
They do not discriminate. While SAPs will absorb the menstrual fluid, their chemical mandate is simply to absorb moistly.
Any moisture.
Any moisture. Therefore, they will aggressively pull the natural, necessary protective moisture directly from the vulvar and vaginal walls.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this strips the mucosa of its hydration, leaving the skin severely dried out, brittle, and highly vulnerable to microscopic tearing.
So what does this all mean? We are looking at a product built on an impermeable plastic chassis, bleached with chlorine, laced with an undisclosed cocktail of synthetic perfumes, anchored with allergenic pine resins, dyed blue to trick our brains, and packed with petroleum gels that aggressively dehydrate the tissue.
It's quite a list when you put it like that.
It really is. How does the body process all of that?
Well, to understand the physical reaction, we have to look at the unique environment of the vulva. The skin there is not like the skin on your arm.
Right.
It is incredibly thin. It has a massive network of blood vessels near the surface, making it highly absorptive, and it exists in a naturally warm state.
Which makes it vulnerable.
Very. This makes it uniquely susceptible to dermatological breakdown. The clinical resources point to two distinct conditions triggered by these products: irritant contact dermatitis and allergic contact dermatitis.
Okay. Irritant contact dermatitis, or ICD, sounds mechanical.
It is. It is entirely mechanical and chemical wear and tear. ICD is not an immune response. It is physical damage to the protective skin barrier caused by prolonged exposure to irritating elements.
So this is like wearing wet, sandy socks on a long hike. The friction just physically rubs the softened epidermis raw over time.
The mechanics are identical. You have the constant physical friction of the rigid plastic pad rubbing against the delicate skin while you walk, sit, or exercise.
Just constant rubbing.
Yes. But you also have the prolonged contact with body fluids, sweat, urine, and menstrual blood trapped against the skin by that non-breathable polyethylene backing.
Because the plastic doesn't breathe.
Right. So the skin becomes waterlogged, a process called maceration, which makes it incredibly fragile. The friction then easily breaks down that macerated barrier.
Ouch. Then we have allergic contact dermatitis, ACD, which operates entirely differently, right? This one is an actual immune system response.
Correct. ACD occurs when your immune system misidentifies a specific substance as a dangerous invader and mounts a localized defense.
Like an allergy.
Exactly.
Right.
In the context of sanitary pads, the immune system is usually reacting to the synthetic fragrances, the latex in the wings, the colophony in the adhesive, or specific chemical preservatives.
Do they name specific preservatives?
Yes, one common preservative used in these products is methyl dibromoglutaronitrile.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. It's added to prevent mold growth in the product while it sits on a warehouse shelf, but it is a highly aggressive sensitizer for human skin.
I have to admit some confusion here on behalf of the listener, though. Let's say you've used the exact same brand of scented pads with the exact same adhesive and fragrance since you were a teenager. You've never had a problem. Can you suddenly develop a severe allergic reaction to that specific product out of nowhere in your 30s?
Yes, you absolutely can.
Wait, really? Out of nowhere?
Yes, allergic contact dermatitis is classified as a type 4 delayed hypersensitivity reaction. This mechanism is crucial to understand. The allergy rarely happens upon first contact.
Oh, interesting.
Instead, your immune system's T cells encounter the chemical, say, the colophony glue, and they make a memory of it. With each subsequent monthly exposure, the immune system slowly builds a larger and larger army of these specific T cells.
So it's secretly building an army?
Exactly. It is tolerating the substance on the surface, but internally it is becoming sensitized.
It's like filling a bucket drop by drop over a decade. You don't notice anything until the very day the water finally spills over the edge.
That is the perfect way to visualize a type 4 reaction. Once that immunological threshold is crossed, your body launches a full-blown attack upon contact.
Wow.
So that brand loyalty you maintained for 10 years is precisely what allowed your body to build up the sensitization.
The physical toll of these reactions sounds just agonizing. The BAHH guidelines list redness, intense itching, swelling, flaking skin, and small fluid-filled blisters.
It's incredibly painful.
But the symptom that really caught my attention was the formation of fissures.
Ah, yes. Fissures.
What exactly are they?
Fissures are essentially deep, paper-cut-like splits in the skin. Because the vulva is constantly moving and stretching, these splits really struggle to heal.
That sounds awful.
They frequently occur in the interlabial sulcus, which are the natural folds between the labia or the posterior commissure, the sensitive tissue at the base of the vaginal opening.
Right, in the most sensitive spots.
Yes. And because they exist in an area of high friction and high moisture, these tiny microscopic cuts cause a disproportionate searing pain, making basic functions like walking, sitting, or even just using the bathroom incredibly difficult.
And we are not talking about a small handful of isolated cases, are we? The data shows that clinically relevant contact allergens are found in 5 to 45% of women presenting with vulval itching.
It's a massive range, but it highlights how common this is.
That is a staggering portion of the population suffering from what they likely assume is just a normal, uncomfortable part of having a period.
But it's not normal.
No, not at all. But the structural design of the pad doesn't just cause localized skin irritation, right? It fundamentally alters the local environment. The dermatological sources refer to this as the greenhouse effect.
Right. The greenhouse effect describes what happens when you introduce that polyethylene plastic backing to a naturally warm, moist area of the human body. Because plastic is fundamentally impermeable, it acts as a sealant.
Like wearing a heavy raincoat in a humid jungle, everything just gets trapped, sweltering, and chaotic.
That's a great analogy. The biological consequence of that trapped jungle environment is a rapid disruption of the natural vaginal microbiome.
How so?
Well, a healthy vagina relies on a delicate balance of bacteria, primarily lactobacilli, which maintain a slightly acidic pH to keep harmful microbes in check.
Okay, that makes sense.
But when you seal that area with plastic, trapping body heat, sweat, and menstrual fluid, the temperature and humidity spike. The lactobacilli are overwhelmed by this new climate, while opportunistic bacteria and fungi suddenly find their ideal breeding ground.
So the conversation shifts from surface-level skin irritation to the development of secondary internal infections.
Precisely. The long-term consequences of this greenhouse environment includes secondary bacterial infections, which often occur when bacteria enter those tiny skin fissures or micro tears caused by scratching.
Oh, so they compound each other.
Exactly. It also directly fuels bacterial vaginosis, or BV, which is an overgrowth of certain harmful bacteria. Furthermore, the trapped heat and moisture create the perfect incubator for vaginal thrush or yeast infections caused by the rapid multiplication of the Candida fungus.
Okay, I want to pause the microbiology for a second to address a very common fear. Whenever we discuss period products and infections, the first thing that jumps into anyone's mind is toxic shock syndrome. I want to be absolutely clear, based on the source material, menstrual toxic shock syndrome, or TSS, has never been linked to the use of sanitary pads.
That is a vital clinical distinction. TSS is exclusively linked to internal menstrual products, such as highly absorbent tampons or menstrual cups, where the blood is trapped inside the vaginal canal for prolonged periods.
So it's an internal issue.
Yes, that specific internal environment allows a certain strain of staph bacteria to produce dangerous toxins. Sanitary pads, because they are worn externally, do not cause TSS.
That's a relief to know.
However, as the data shows, they are heavily implicated in debilitating local skin infections and severe microbiome imbalances.
This biological reality completely reframes the basic hygiene advice we've all been given.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanics of the greenhouse effect perfectly explain the medical guideline to change a pad every 3 to 4 hours.
Even if the flow is light.
Yes. Many people operate under the assumption that a pad only needs to be changed when it has reached its maximum fluid capacity. If someone has a very light flow, they might leave a single pad on for 8 or 10 hours.
Which seems logical if you're just looking at capacity.
But changing the product is not about managing volume. It is about breaking the bacterial breeding cycle.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
Removing the pad vents the trapped heat, clears away the accumulating moisture, and resets the local environment before the bacteria can multiply enough to macerate the skin and trigger an infection.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because diagnosing the problem is only half the battle.
True.
If the plastic, the perfumes, and the SAPs are causing this cascade of dermatological issues, how do we actually stop the cycle when dealing with a period is still a monthly biological reality? Let's look at the actionable, evidence-based solutions from the guidelines.
So, the immediate protocol for active irritation focuses on neutralizing the environment. If you are experiencing burning, itching, or redness, step 1 is removing the conventional pad immediately.
Just take it off.
Do not try to wait it out. Step 2 involves cleaning the area, and this requires extreme gentleness.
And the sources are very strict about this. Step away from the scented body washes and absolutely do not use a loofah or a washcloth.
Oh, absolutely not. The physical friction of a woven washcloth on compromised, macerated vulval skin will cause microscopic tearing.
So just hands.
You must wash the area gently, using only your bare hands in plain, lukewarm water.
What if water feels too drying?
If water alone feels too astringent or drying, the dermatological guidelines recommend using a medical emulsifying ointment, such as Cetravin.
Okay, Cetravin.
Right. Unlike standard soaps, which strip the skin's natural lipid barrier with harsh surfactants, emulsifying ointments gently lift debris while leaving a protective layer of moisture behind.
And drying.
After washing, you gently pat the skin dry with a soft towel. No rubbing.
I imagine the temptation to apply an over-the-counter anti-itch cream is huge when you are in pain, though.
It is a common mistake that often prolongs the suffering. Yes. Avoid over-the-counter herbal creams, scented lotions, or vaginal douches entirely unless prescribed by a physician.
Why is that?
Well, the vaginal mucosa is already in a state of high alert. Applying complex, store-bought chemical creams will likely introduce new allergens, exacerbating the allergic contact dermatitis and further destroying the healthy bacterial flora.
Making it worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to simplify the environment, giving the immune system a chance to stand down.
That philosophy of simplicity applies directly to what you wear, too. The clinical advice is to switch to 100% loose cotton underwear.
Yes, cotton is key.
Synthetic fabrics like nylon or polyester do not breathe. They just recreate the plastic greenhouse effect. And the detail about fabric dyes is fascinating. If you are dealing with a flare-up, you should avoid wearing dark-dyed underwear, like black or navy.
Textile dyes are a highly overlooked source of contact allergy. In dark fabrics, there is a higher concentration of dye molecules.
Right.
Often, these molecules are unfixed, meaning they haven't permanently bonded to the cotton fibers. When the fabric sits against warm, slightly moist skin, those unfixed dye molecules leach out of the fabric and absorb directly into the vulva, triggering an immune response.
So if you do buy dark underwear,
If you do purchase dark underwear, you must wash it several times in hot water before wearing it to strip away the excess dye. The guidelines also strongly recommend sleeping completely without underwear to allow the tissue 8 uninterrupted hours of airflow.
so we've addressed the daily clothing and the first aid, but what are the actual product alternatives when you are actively bleeding?
Well, if you require the convenience of a disposable product, the most immediate evidence-backed switch is to unbleached, unscented organic cotton disposable pads.
What should people look for on the box?
You must look specifically for the certification Totally Chlorine-Free, or TCF. These products physically eliminate the polyethylene plastics, the toxic dioxins, the aggressive SAP gels, and the mystery fragrances from the equation entirely. Cotton naturally breathes, reducing the greenhouse effect.
The landscape of reusable options has also completely transformed. You aren't just limited to disposables anymore.
Not at all.
The sources highlight reusable cloth pads, which are made from layers of woven natural fibers that snap directly around your underwear. Because there is no extruded plastic barrier, air can actually circulate through the weave of the fabric.
You just have to manage the laundry correctly.
Right. Washing them at 40 to 60 degrees Celsius with a non-biological, unperfumed detergent. And critically, you cannot use liquid fabric softeners because they coat the fabric in an irritating water-repellent chemical film.
Right, which ruins the absorbency and irritates the skin. Beyond cloth pads, period underwear has become highly viable, integrating the absorbent natural fibers directly into the construction of the garment.
It's a great option.
And for those looking to eliminate the risk of contact dermatitis entirely, internal options are incredibly effective. Medical-grade silicone menstrual cups or unbleached organic cotton tampons capture the fluid internally.
So it never even touches the skin.
Exactly. This means the menstrual blood and the product itself never actually makes contact with the external vulval skin, completely bypassing the mechanisms that cause both irritant and allergic dermatitis.
I can hear a very specific pushback from the listener right now because olfactory marketing is incredibly powerful. The thought process is, but scented pads make me feel fresh. If I switch to unscented cotton or a menstrual cup, am I just resigning myself to accepting period odor?
This raises an important question about how we view our own biology, and it really reveals the success of decades of corporate marketing. We have been sold a manufactured insecurity so that companies can continually sell us the chemical cure.
Wow, that's a powerful way to put it.
It's the clinical reality.
Ah.
A healthy period does not produce a strong, unpleasant smell when products are changed regularly.
The vagina is an incredibly efficient self-cleaning organ.
Exactly. Menstrual blood on its own has a very mild, slightly metallic scent due to the iron content. It does not smell foul.
So what if there is an odor?
If there is a strong, fishy, or highly unpleasant odor, it is usually a diagnostic sign of an existing bacterial imbalance, like BV, or it is the smell of bacteria rapidly multiplying on a synthetic pad that has been worn for far too long in a greenhouse environment.
And the perfumes don't actually help that.
No, synthetic perfumes do not neutralize bacteria and they do not sanitize the area. They merely mask natural human scents with complex chemical cocktails that actually increase your risk of developing the very bacterial infections that cause bad odors in the first place.
It is a perfectly engineered vicious cycle. You use the heavily perfumed pad because you want to feel fresh. The chemicals and the plastic backing disrupt your microbiome, causing an infection. The infection produces an odor. You smell the odor, panic, and rely even more heavily on the perfumed pad to hide it.
It keeps you buying the product.
Breaking that cycle by switching to simple, breathable materials is the absolute kindest thing you can do for your body.
The overarching consensus in the dermatological literature is that less is more. The vulva is a highly evolved, self-regulating environment. It does not require complex chemical interventions to function cleanly.
Right.
It simply requires a breathable, low-friction environment to maintain its own natural equilibrium.
So to bring all of this deep dive together, your skin is remarkably sensitive and highly absorptive. The Spring Fresh perfumes, the bright white chlorine bleach, the clinical blue dyes, and the aggressively dehydrating super absorbent gels. These are not medical necessities.
No, they're really not.
They are marketing tricks and manufacturing shortcuts designed to minimize corporate costs and maximize visual appeal. If you are dealing with mysterious, recurring itching, sudden painful fissures, or constant bacterial imbalances, the culprit might literally be sitting in your underwear drawer.
Exactly.
By stripping away the chemistry and switching to breathable, simple materials like totally chlorine-free organic cotton, reusable cloth, or silicone cups, you can halt the cycle of irritation and drastically improve your intimate health.
It requires a paradigm shift. Once you understand that severe discomfort is not a mandatory, normal part of having a period, but rather a direct biological reaction to synthetic materials, you are empowered to make choices that prioritize your physiological health over the corporate illusion of freshness.
Which brings me back to where we started our conversation today. We scrutinize the ingredient lists of our facial skincare serums down to the microgram.
We really do.
We demand absolute purity, and we would never willingly tape fragranced, bleached plastic to our faces and leave it there for days on end.
Never.
Yet, for decades, we have accepted completely opaque labeling on products sitting directly against the most delicate, highly absorptive skin on our entire bodies. It makes you wonder what other everyday convenience products in our daily routines are hiding incredibly complex chemical cocktails behind a simple, brightly colored promise of freshness.
It's definitely something to think about.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Start reading those labels and take care of yourselves out there.